Welcome back to Reddit from Reddit. Today we're taking a look at the AskReddit. What could have been awesome if people hadn't ruined it? The news used to be a public service in the US. When TV was delivered over radio waves, the government let networks use the best frequency for video and audio in exchange for 1 hour of public service of news without excessive ads. Ruin that. Now we just have a grab for attention for ratings, thus ad sales. No news, just entertainment. Meta keywords on websites used to be a good way to tell search engines what your website is about until lots of websites started keyword stuffing and adding tons of unrelated keywords to show up in more searches. So now most search engines just ignore them. There are even sites that take whatever you search for and put in their ad-filled page, like Google's Photoshop doesn't work. First result, you won't believe what Photoshop doesn't work did in the latest interview. Buy Photoshop doesn't work, 50% off now. Keyword stuffing drives me nuts when online shopping. There needs to be a separate place for keywords. They don't belong in the item's title. Oh, look at this one pair men's, women's, kids, unisex, polyurethane, genuine faux leather, professional cosplay, steampunk, medical, no finger, mitten, glove, hand coverings with zipper snap closure. They're gloves. Random adults helping random kids was ruined by pedophiles and kidnappers. I'd like to help this kid, but they might think I'm a creeper, so I'll just stay away. Stranger danger after all. Also, I guess same thing applies to men legit wanting to help women out without any expectations whatsoever. I will add just plain old friendliness. I was at the supermarket last weekend and there was an older man shopping behind me and we were both shopping for protein bars and I thought I was in his way. So I turned behind me to check and we made eye contact and I kind of smiled and moved my cart up and he was like, "I'm sorry, I'm not following you." And I felt so bad because I'd never intended to make him feel like I thought he was a creep. He wasn't. He was just a regular dude who lives in the neighborhood I live in, also shopping for groceries. And I hated that moment. Trust me, when men are creeps, I let them freaking know. Sad how much fear is embedded in communication these days. This happened to me last week. A kid had just bought an ice cream at the shop I was at, and I was getting my bike ready to go. He got on his bike with his ice cream and accidentally dropped it. He looked really bummed out about it, so I offered him a chocolate bar. He got scared and cycled away. In hindsight, offering him €2 for another ice cream probably would have been a better idea, but it still made me feel very sad in humanity that I couldn't even give a sad kid a gift. For any clarification, I'm a reasonably fit 18-year-old guy. Had a Nerf fight for my birthday, and one of my friends brought a modded Nerf Mega. There's always bigger fish. One time I invited my school friend and his friends over for airsoft, was thinking it would be the usual. Except they all had full auto gas-powered rifles and one gas pistol. It was not a fair fight, as all we had was string-powered single-action rifles and pistols. It was pretty fun, but I still have a red mark on my left hand forever due to being shot within a few inches of said gas-powered pistol while rounding a corner in the path and almost colliding with my enemy. He promptly shot me point blank before I could raise my weapon and fire. Chat roulette. Could have been so awesome to just randomly chat with someone in another country, but people had to ruin it by just having penises on it all the time. All new media becomes a method for sending penis pics pretty early on. That's just history. Just like the feature in the early Nintendo 3DS days, where it would take a picture of your face when you would die in Star Fox or something and send it to the player who killed you. They removed it because people were sending penis pics and kids were seeing them. Used to get on there drunk with my friends. Actually found a pretty awesome girl on there from a few states away. She came to visit for New Year's. Haven't used it since. Yeah, I went on there solely for the purpose of seeing naked people. Used to be TV news was commercial free, so it was considered a reasonably reliable source of information. Once they introduced the advertising-supported 24-hour news cycle, they all had to compete for the most sensationalist stories, hooking the most people instead of giving actual news. When was this? I remember watching the news with my parents when I was a kid, early 80s, and I feel like they always had commercial breaks. Duluth Trading Co. Satisfaction Guarantee. If a product fails soon after purchase, send it back. If you use the product and it wears out, be a mensch and know that you got a high-quality product that served you well, and don't cheat and say you're not satisfied like a punk. I love Duluth. I had a pair of pants that got caught on a nail, and I told the cashier that I got caught on a nail, so I understood if I couldn't return it. She was all, "No, totally return this." I buy all my workwear here, right down to the undergarments. Lawn darts. My friend and I used to play lawn dart chicken with the old-fashioned metal-tipped ones. You toss it straight up and see who can wait the longest to dive out of the way when it comes back down. He won when it hit him. We had a common area where anyone who needed it could let their animals graze, but then wealthy folks with a lot of land and livestock would descend on it en masse, even though they didn't need it, and ruined it. It's a tragedy. Ah, yes, the tragedy of the commons. Flying drones is a hobby. I'm scared to fly my race quad in my local park now. This gives me flashbacks of literal 5-year-olds running up to me asking if they could have a turn because I've done this before, trust me, I'm a master. Haven't been drone flying in a while, even with my small RC plane. My favorite fishing spot. Catherby? The rainforest. Welcome to the jungle. We got trees and rain. We got everything you want. Mostly trees and rain. YouTube. Between the weird popularity algorithms, the unstable copyright and IP regulation, and the recent upsurge in ads to incentivize a paid subscription, YouTube had surely fallen from its dynasty in leading video sharing platforms. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Google values user experience just enough to stay on top, but anything beyond that is just fuel for profits. It's kind of weird how the internet shows just how much an economy can be fabricated. Just as the USA functions within a military-industrial complex, the internet ultimately profits from user inconvenience. Return policies. There are a lot of places like REI and LL Bean that had great return policies. However, people abusing them eventually led to the companies making them stricter. After scrolling through, the consensus seems to be everything we touch. You are a virus, Agent Smith. We get this feeling. Einstein said only two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the former. The History Channel, TLC, Discovery, etc. used to be such great education tools and put out great content. Now it's saturated with reality TV shows that are on all the time. Gosh, I miss when I was in middle school and history was all about that World War II stuff. I learned way more about World War II on history than in class. I can't even remember TLC being anything but reality TV. The last time I checked in on Animal Planet, it was the same thing. That one mustache, you know, the one that is trimmed just to the width of your nose? That one. One butthole had to screw it up for everyone else. I think it was called the toothbrush mustache before Chaplin had it, and then Hitler ruined it. I don't remember where I heard this, but someone was wondering if the Hitler mustache would ever be socially acceptable, and someone chimed in that as long as it's known as the Hitler mustache, it won't be. The Great Barrier Reef was and still is awesome. Unfortunately, Australia and the world have likely doomed it. I heard they found a way to rapidly grow back coral by splitting them and letting each half grow. Our reefs may be okay if they hurry. The mountain lake where my parents had a summer cabin and dock for fishing and swimming. It used to be pristine and peaceful, the smell of pine trees in the breeze and abundant fish. Now, as I once mentioned, the trees have been cut down, the water is polluted with oil and gas from roaring motorboat engines, and the fish are gone. Similar thing in northern Indiana at Lake Tippecanoe, where my family has had a place since the 1950s. Sure, developers come into places that are beautiful, but they've built so many giant homes that it's mostly multimillionaires up there with their huge wakeboarding boats and personal watercraft. I love looking at the photos from the 80s when I grew up and we went there to fish and swim and water ski. The people were real. Lots of retirees who worked all their lives to buy a little cottage on the lake, and the families passed the cottages down the generations. Oh well, that's what happens, I guess. There's a lot of lakes up there and they're all beautiful. Hashtags. People actually use them sensibly at first. Going to the store today, hashtag what should I buy, hashtag I never know how to do a hashtag, hashtag Target is my favorite store in the world, hashtag maybe I should get something cool. They used to be like subreddits. Kids being able to play and wander outside all day on their own without constant supervision. Oh, and the word daddy. I'm from rural New York, and we always did this. Old guys always told us how good it was in the old days when you could bike to each other's house and hang out wherever and have freedom. And I always tell them, I'm 18 now, and we always did this. We were allowed to do it as long as we stayed off the main roads and came back by 6. Daddy, chill. From what I've read in multiple articles online, at least statistically, kids nowadays are safer than ever. Of course, that would vary from area to area, but the media being saturated with bad news upon bad news is affecting us quite negatively. That robot who is hitchhiking everywhere. I think he only lasted a day in America. We suck. Never knew about this until now. What a cool idea. Sucks that some butthole felt the need to ruin it. He did a lot of travel in America, actually. It started in Massachusetts. He met his demise when he got to Philadelphia, specifically, which should surprise no one. He got torn apart literally the day he was released. Seriously, he crossed Canada twice, and the Americans couldn't get him out of one state. And of course, it had to be my city that put an end to it. We can't have anything nice in Philly. We have to screw it up. Rip trusting robot. The name Karen. And Chad for that matter. Let's not forget Kyle. Everyone conveniently forgets how Felicia's got screwed way back when. Social media. It seems like it would be a great way to meet people, share ideas, and learn. Instead, people take great joy in trolling, scamming, and deliberately spreading crap. Air quality. Inside your own home, you can at least sort of fix it by running air purifiers. The YouTube comment section could have been a place for insightful discussion. IMDb used to be the best place for movie and TV show discussion. Then inflooded the buttholes with useless butthole comments. They shut it down. No website has come close to what it once was. Climbing Mount Everest. It used to be a huge accomplishment. Nowadays, people hire Nepali people to take all their stuff and make their way up easy and comfortable. There's also a huge amount of trash and a queue. A queue at the very top. I wonder if Sherpas make fun of Westerners for being so excited to summit Everest. Like, the Sherpa does this at least once a year and did it carrying all of your extra crap. They're actually going to increase the restrictions for climbing Everest to help keep it from being too crowded. It looks like an awful idea these days. Apparently the trash includes a lot of poo, and at least one dead body, if that's not too a disrespectful way of putting it. California. It was really nice in my teens and in my 20s, but now it takes 3 hours to get home, and if you want to go to the mall, leave 30 minutes early because that's how long it's going to take you to find parking. And people wonder how and why Amazon is taking over the world. Gender reveal parties. Should have just been a cute way to let people know if you're having a boy or a girl, but now people go to ridiculous lengths for their parties. The worst I've heard about was a couple that decided to set off an appropriately colored explosion and ended up starting a giant wildfire. I only wanted to do one so I could eat cake. I didn't want to invite anyone else. Just get a cake. My husband vetoed it because, as it turns out, when you're an adult, you can just eat cake for no reason. Florida. I grew up surrounded by orange groves, beautiful lakes, and stunning beaches. Now my childhood home was bulldozed to make room for a highway, the orange groves have all been replaced by overpriced luxury apartments, and the lakes are all devoid of natural wildlife except for algae and amoebas because it was all killed by the owners of the cheap McMansions around them. Florida is dead. Limerix. It was a vaccine for Lyme disease, but had the unfortunate timing of coming out when the anti-vaccine hysteria started. Where I am in the Northeast, 1 in 3 ticks carry the disease, and if not caught early, can cause serious health risk for the rest of your life. If I won one of those insane lotteries, like $1 billion, I would try to revive it. Or if every person on Reddit sent me 50 cents, I would try to get it funded. Limerix was actually a pretty bad vaccine. It gave fuel to the fire of the vaccine hysteria, but it wasn't a failure because of that. But I think one of the big things was that instead of trying to improve a bad vaccine, they just wiped it from the market. I'm from New England and both my sisters have Lyme. If someone redeveloped a vaccine, I'd 100% support it. Almost every new feature added to an internet browser. And every UI redesign. My sense of humor. Now I just laugh at beans. I'm thinking about those beans. Damn, what kind? Me and the boys at 3 a.m. looking for beans. User interface design. We put the graphic artists in charge. Self-checkout machines. In theory, it should be a faster way to make your purchases. In practicality, it's a bloated mess of a system. The system gives you unreasonable errors, coupons and discounts often require staff interaction, people with too many groceries or who can't use the system slow it all down to a crawl. At this point, any kind of queue for those machines has me searching for staff to ring through my purchase instead. When I was in the UK, I was at a grocery store where you carried around a scanner with you that tallied up your items as you picked them up. Finally, when you got to the register, you just plugged in the scanner and paid for everything. There was a staff member to check for people stealing, but was incredibly efficient. Meanwhile, here at freaking Safeway in the US, if you try to tag team and have one person bag while the other person scans, it yells at you for picking something up and tells you to put it back. And then it says it doesn't recognize the weight once you put it back, and honestly makes me want to freaking kill someone. Twitch would have been awesome if the admins and streamers and viewers weren't terrible. I'm 30, and probably the strangest thing I've experienced in my lifetime is the emergence of gamer as an identity, and the fact that the vast majority of those who identify as such are absolute trash. Most fandoms. I love Undertale and Steven Universe. Absolutely hate the fandom. It's because Undertale and Steven Universe Add this to Rick and Morty as well. Try really hard to be philosophical or have some deeper meaning. Then when the fan base picks up on, they suddenly develop some ounce of self-reflection and societal criticism. All of a sudden, they think they are such a deep thinker because in Undertale, they learned the lesson that you should talk your problems out instead of fighting. So now you got this fandom that thinks it's enlightened, and everyone who disagrees with them isn't enlightened, and they feel it's their place to educate them. Undertale is a good game with a solid story. Rick and Morty is pretty good and entertaining, but my goodness, do I just want to nope the frick out whenever someone talks about it. Using headsets to talk to people while playing a game. Then everyone brought their vulgarity and get good to it. If we could have chilled out, it would have been a fun way to meet new people who share an interest. Asking the public to name something. It used to mean something. People picked a name that made sense, that resonated with people. That's how Pluto got its name. Now it's all in service of a joke. And if you point that out, you're just labeled a party McPoopy face. And that's the end of this Ask Reddit. What could have been awesome if people hadn't ruined it? Let us know what you think could have been awesome if you hadn't ruined it down below in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button while you're down there, get subscribed to Reddit from Reddit, and share this video with your friends so you can ruin things together, including the comment section of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.